Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is James and today we are going to do a review of Elden Ring. And I know it's been a little while since the game was released, but as someone who isn't much of a Souls player, I needed that little bit more time just to get myself settled into the game so that I could give you a full review. And to be honest with you, because I'm not much of a Souls player, this is a Noobs review of Elden Ring. So let me give you the first little intro of how the game feels when you first start it. So as a person who's never played Souls, or has played, I think, a little bit of Bloodborne, but not much of the actual Dark Souls series, I was thrown into complete confusion. Now, in my defense, or more should I say, in Elden Ring's defense, I should have read the description boxes and all of the tutorial boxes as the game went on. I am not much of a reader, so I'll be honest, I hated this game for the first 2 or 3 hours, and that is 100% my fault. It's simply because I didn't understand it and I didn't take that time to learn it. So once I got into the game and I started running around and I started dying and dying and dying, I got to the point where I thought I have to figure something out. I have to learn something, and that's where the world of Elden Ring really opened up for me. So once I sort of had an idea of how to fight and had an idea of how to parry and do the little things that help you stay alive, like rolling into the swings and stuff, those sort of things were integral to me finally feeling like I knew what I was doing. And it's one of those situations where it is a learning curve, and a lot of people don't really want a learning curve in a game. But it's one of those learning curves that once you get over it, you're going to be rewarded with, honestly, a magical game. This game is stunning. And I'm jumping the gun a little bit by telling you this game is stunning. But it is one of those games where if you play for 2 or 3 hours, you die a few times, and you don't progress in the mission, and you think, bugger it, game's too hard, can't be bothered, you're really going to let yourself down, and you're really going to miss out. This game is something that it does take a little bit of time to get used to, unless, of course, you are already a Souls player. And like I'm saying, this is for the people who aren't already Souls players. If you're not a Souls player, this game is definitely a learning curve. But it isn't too much of one, and all you need to do is jump onto here, YouTube, and look for some people explaining the game to you. Just a little bit of in-depth information will give you a massive, massive boost in the enjoyability of the game. So I think that's the first element, is the whole system of how to play the game, what the stats mean, what all your runes go towards, all your leveling up, all that sort of stuff. It is difficult to understand, but once you get your head around it, it makes complete sense, and you can really sort of define your character and play around with your character and make a character completely what you want it to be, and sort of mix around with the builds a bit. And, you know, the amount of weapons in this game, you really can sort of play around and have any sort of spec that you want. Now let's get into the actual gameplay itself. So the actual fighting itself, I'll be honest with you, there's not much wrong with it. It's a Souls game, and it's made by the developers who make Dark Souls, so you expect it to be pretty bang on, and I'll be honest, it is pretty much bang on. You do have to be careful with your carrying weights, so if you're someone who likes to roll a lot, then your carrying weights will make a massive impact on how you roll and how you sprint and all that sort of stuff. So you do want to be wary of your weight carrying, but in general, the fluidity of the fighting is spot on. It's absolutely spot on. I do find that sometimes I'm swinging too many times, but again, that's me, and I think the game is very much, it's very, what's the word? Very specific in how many times you tap it. Let's just say that. So if you tap it 3 times, you're going to swing your sword 3 times. Whereas I'm clearly just mashing the buttons out of pure panic, and that's why I'm ending up swinging my sword 5 times too many. So as long as you're just wary of how many times you're pushing the button, you shouldn't have much of a problem of running out of stamina and also swinging too many times and leaving yourself open. But in terms of the fluidity of the fighting, fluidity is bang on. It's 100% there. You do still have bosses that you can cheese. So I, for example, had one of the knights stuck behind a door not long ago, and I was just able to swing him with a sword from outside the door and kill him. Honestly, not my greatest move, but it did mean that I didn't have to get killed 16 times, so that was nice. But yeah, in terms of the fluidity of the fighting is stunning. I can't fault the fighting at all. It is a game that I went into as someone who's always had a bit of a problem with Dark Souls, and I don't know why. I think it's simply because I was never good at them. And now that I've finally stuck to it, and I finally understand the fighting, I 100% I get it. I fully get why people like Dark Souls. So yeah, the fighting, it's just an improved system on all the systems they've used in the past, and it clearly works, and it's clearly worked again. Now let's talk about the graphics. Now the graphics are, for me, on a PS4, a bit shit. I'll be honest. They're good. They're really good, but they are a little bit shit as well. They're alright, like. But I have seen PC gameplay, and I've also seen PS5 gameplay. That game looks absolutely stunning on those consoles, and I'm a little bit jealous, I'll be honest. I'm very jealous, the fact I have to play it on a PS4. But yeah, the game is a beautiful, beautiful game. When you first come into the world and you see the giant golden Erd tree or Eld tree, whatever it is, I don't care. They look good. The exploration of the game was something that I was pushed towards before buying it, and it's one of the main reasons why I bought the game. Was the exploration was told to me that it was just, it felt infinite. Everywhere you went felt different, and I'll be honest, it does feel that way. The way you can traverse, you can really, like, you can almost skip the entire game by just going around some areas and maps. And yeah, it all looks good. It looks stunning. It all looks really cool. You have different areas, like you have the beach and stuff with the water. The water looks great. There wasn't, like, I wouldn't have been too fussy if the water looked a bit crap, but the water looked great. And the entire, like, all the characters, I will be honest, there is an element of how Dark Souls bosses look that make them look a little bit not HD. I don't know how to put it, but there's a little bit of the way they design these bosses. I think they struggle then to make it look HD because of, like, I don't know, Silicon Valley or something. Sorry, I'm having a brain melt. But anyway, when something looks too real or too human, but it's not human, that's when things start looking a bit strange. And I think that does happen with a few of the characters, because generally the guards and that look fine. But as soon as you start having like the ghoulish looking people, the graphics on them look a bit naff. But that again might just be a problem with the PS4. I can't be specific with how little characters look on the PS5 and the PC, sorry. So I can't quite comment on that. But in terms of the big bosses and the big monsters, sick. Absolutely sick. Love it all. Last thing we're going to talk about is the story. Now, I'll be honest, I haven't actually completed the story. However, my biggest issue with the story is it does feel very Lord of the Rings. And I know people have said it in the past. I've said it in the past. The issue, it is called Elden Ring. The font is Lord of the Rings font, or very, very, very close to. And there's like 7 parts of a ring that are coming together. If at the end of this game, Sauron turns up and just shanks everyone and takes the ring, would not shock me. Would not shock me. So that's my only concern, really, with the game. And that's like the most minor concern I think I've had with a game for a very, very, very long time. So I'll be honest. As a noob reviewer, it took me about 6, maybe 8 hours to feel like I had the game at a grip. I felt like it was about 8 hours before I could fight something and feel confident enough to go into the fight without feeling like I was about to get murdered. Even though 9 times out of 10, you get murdered. So as a noober taxi, yeah, this fantastic game, but do prepare yourself for a good few hours of dying. And it does get hard. It does get frustrating. It does make you want to turn it off and snap the disc. But please, if you're a fan of RPG games, if you're a fan of Skyrim, any of those sort of games, genuinely, this game is absolutely 100% up your street. You just have to get past the learning curve. And if you're already a Souls player and you're smashing through, this review isn't really for you, because you know what to expect, you know what you're getting into, and you understand the game. And I assume that you've just enjoyed it from the offset. But for the rest of us, we had to get past the learning curve, and we had to get past the deaths to be able to feel like this game was really, really, really sunk into. And now I feel like I'm really in the game and I'm blowing and I'm absolutely smashing my way through. I'm finding stuff, I'm beating things here and there, and I'm really enjoying the game. So yeah, stick it out if you're someone who's getting killed every 5 minutes, because the game does really open up and it does reward you with an absolutely insane spectacle of bosses and just areas to explore, and there's just nooks and crannies filled with things that you can find. So yeah, go and enjoy the game, guys. If you've never played Elden Ring or any of the Dark Souls games, 100% Elden Ring is a perfect game to sort of dip your toes into the brand. And as far as I've been told, this is one of the easier ones in the line of Dark Souls and Sekiro, for example. So definitely a good game to get your feet into and start off by macking up some bosses. That's all I can say. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. Please put a like on the video for the pain and suffering I went through to finally get to the point where I could kill something and feel like I could talk about it. Ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful evening. I'll see you next week. Cheers.